Hey, what's up YouTube? So today I did a lot of testing on Maven. As you can probably see from my XP bar, Maven kind of killed me a few times while trying out some troll stuff. But on the bright side, I can bring you some definitive news about my test results, about how bad it is to actually have over 20 stacks for the explosion, and whether it really matters that much, because some people in my chat were telling me that you would do like 40% less damage or so from the explosion. But I just wanted to test it out myself and give you guys some feedback about what I found out about the situation. And also, I did something really bad in the last video and all of the previous videos of Penance Brand. After I swapped the Blade Vortex, when I swapped back, I forgot to grab Rune Binder, which means I was probably doing around like 80% half damage. So this means that Rune Binder makes it so that we can attach additional brands, so we can stack the explosions twice as fast almost. So huge oversight on my part, and huge shout out to the person in stream who just kept asking me, "Do you actually have Rune Binder?" And I would always go like, "Yeah, of course I have Rune Binder. Rune Binder is pretty much mandatory for the thing." And it turns out that yeah, Rune Binder is mandatory, and I'm an idiot for not having it. So huge shout out to whoever convinced me. I was kind of stubborn about it because I had no idea I could be so dumb. But sometimes you have people looking out for you and you get it fixed, and I was really happy because the damage is even more absurd now. So I'll be able to show you some clips of Cyrus and maybe Maven, and you'll be able to see that yeah, Rune Binder is OP. So let's go into the gear overview, and I do have some actual tips for people on why their damage may be so bad in the gear overview. So for the gear overview, we have this Nebulous. I actually bought this for 1 Exalt. I wanted to test it out without double damage, and it turns out that double damage is not really needed because with this Nebulous, I one-shot at Maven almost. So if you one-shot at Maven and you double one-shot her, you still only one-shot her, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but basically double damage Scepter is not needed if you have enough damage to like nearly one-shot Maven. Or it depends on what the hardest boss you can do. So you think about what is the boss that actually takes me the longest to kill, and if you can nearly one-shot her, then you probably don't want to use a double damage Scepter. And if you like consistency, then I would prefer, then you should probably not also use Nebulous, because you probably just want to do more damage all the time instead of having this huge chunk of damage come out. But if you like the unexpected, you like to be wild a little bit, then yeah, go for the Nebulous with double damage. In the end, over the long course of time, you will do more damage with the double damage Nebulous. But it's also important to consider this Nebulous is what? How much do you think it is? 20x? Oh wait, none's even up. Okay, what's going on here? I don't even know. It's 2 white sockets, right? 19x, 20x. So it's a big price difference, 1x and 20x. So just be sure that you want to spend your money wisely, right? So if you can spend that 20x on a +2 shavs or something, then it'll be a huge upgrade. So for the rest of the gear, we have the same helm, same amulet, and the rings are the same. And the chest is the same. And the Prism Guardian, I wanted to check the price out, right? Because I've been pretty much wondering like how much is a Prism Guardian, and it turns out that it's still extremely expensive. It's 35 exalts at the moment, and that's actually just kind of crazy, right? So I see this one. I'm gonna buy this Prism Guardian after I finish what's it called? Finish recording this video, because this Prism Guardian is pretty pog. 7% reduction almost. So you can think of this as 7 times 0.9, and that's how much physical damage reduction you get, and that's pretty absurd if you think about it. If you think about it, like how I just mentioned, this is almost equivalent to getting 400%. Not theoretically really close, but about half of the benefit you get from 400% from the physical damage reduction. So if you can stack mods like this, or getting like a throwaway mod on the Watcher's Eye, your character is pretty much having the 400% physical damage reduction without being 400%. So this is actually a very, very useful and overpowered mod, in my opinion. It's something that's not more valuable. But you can see that there's probably very few of those, and this is probably a once in a lifetime one. So, but I just to keep in mind, right? Because maybe if you can't afford the Grace one, this is a very good mod to have alone without Grace, because it's very good for your survivability. And we're all about surviving, right? Because how else can you hit 100? Otherwise, you'll be stuck at 99 like me. So if I had that shield, I probably would be alive, right? So we still have the same boots. These boots really cannot get any better. I guess I could have crafted Chaos Res on them instead of Aspect of the Avian. But maybe I'll use Aspect of the Avian one day if I go to CI and I want to delve or something. This head under belt is still pretty good. Cast speed is king in mapping. There's nothing that will beat cast speed for your clear speed. It will make the brands reach more explosions a lot faster with the energy stacks. So now you have Asenath's Gentle Touch, and then you have the 2 Call of the Brotherhoods, which are the same. And the chest is still +2/+1. I don't think you can do anything better. So like the goal here maybe the one day is to get Vitality on this amulet, right? And if you can get Vitality on this amulet, that means I can put Enhance as one of the slots. So I can have Enhanced Purity of Ice, which gives me 3%, additional cold pen. But the other auras don't really benefit from Enhance, and that becomes a problem. So it's kind of hard to actually justify that, because is 3% pen really worth the extra multiplier? So I'm not really sure about what to do with that. It's kind of a tricky situation since the auras needs to be in here for the +2. But here we have the Smite setup with Empower, and then we have the Bossing pair of gloves for more ES. Now for the cluster jewels, so this is a node I was talking about, Room Binder, the one that you should definitely make sure you're taking. So I was always wondering, why do I have so many spare points on the tree? And it's because I was an idiot and didn't take it. But overall, most of the jewels, as you can see, oh yeah, I put in Conqueror's Efficiency for a little bit just to test out the whole Divergent Swift brand situation, and I'll explain it a little bit more. And I also bought another dual multi jewel. So this one is 17%, 10%, so 27% multi, 14% fizz damage, and 9 strength and int. So it's pretty much 4 useful stats, so that's why I bought it. I think it was only 12 exalts, which is extremely cheap. And a lot of the dual multi-R modules I feel like are going down a little bit in price, so if anyone's trying to pick up some free damage, that's somewhere to look for if you're upgrading from a 1 multi. Because if you think about it, a lot of people actually have multi-jewels that are 12 multi, and you can get up to like 30% multi if you get a dual multi-R module. And another important thing is that dual multi or single multi with 18% is very, very important. Like when I look at people's profiles and they don't have good damage, it's because they don't have 300% multi, and they don't have the multi a lot of times because they have certain reduced reservation jewels without the multi on it. And it's actually pretty bad because it adds up. If you get a bunch with like 9% multi instead of 18%, if you have 6 jewels, that's nearly 60% multi loss. And some people don't even have multi on their reduced reservation of skills jewels because they have % ES. In the end, damage is pretty important, and damage is essential to staying alive. So make sure if you're playing this on a budget that you buy the jewels with like something like this on a multiplier of lightning skills. It's very important to have the 15 to 18% roll, and it matters a lot in the long run if you stack it all up, because this build's all about the multiplier, right? The multiplier scales all the other multipliers, so it becomes a huge deal. So now that we're on the topic of multipliers, I wanted to briefly go over why certain skills work with AURASTACKER and what doesn't. So a lot of people ask me, like, why can't I play Fireball with AURASTACKER? Why can't I play Power Siphon with AURASTACKER? And the answer is you can play it, but it's going to be a lot worse. But the whole answer lies in this statement right here. Damage conversion only flows in one direction, and it goes from fizz to lightning, to cold, to fire, to chaos, meaning that the stuff at the end of the conversion chain is bad. And why is that? Because you don't get the extra multiplier scaling. So if you look at Hatred, right? Hatred says you and nearby allies deal 19% more cold damage, and you and nearby allies gain 26% of physical damage as extra cold damage. So if you're a fizz skill, you get the benefit of the Hatred aura, and it double dips with the 19% more cold damage. And if you're lightning skill, you also get more spell lightning damage and more spell lightning damage then gets converted to cold damage with the Call of the Brotherhood. So our cold damage then gets multiplied. So the original lightning damage gets converted with the more spell lightning damage, and then it gets multiplied because it's a cold damage now with Hatred. So that means, and then here we have Herald of Purity, which is 13% more physical damage. And then you have Zealotry, which is 16% more spell damage. So all of these auras at like 300% effect just ends up multiplying upon one another and creating the skill that does a insane amount of damage at the end of the conversion chain. So that means physical skills are the best, lightning skills are just as good, but the best is actually Fizz and Lightning. So that's why Penance Brand is the best skill for Aura Stacker in terms of damage. And in addition, Penance Brand also has mechanics for the skill that makes it deal an insane amount of damage based on how many stacks you have. And that also is because of cast speed. And Aura Stackers also get a lot of free cast speed from Haste and the Necromancer part of the Ascendancy. So this damage conversion thing is very important to keep in mind. Like if we aren't using a lightning skill, we lose out on the Wrath conversion, and our Call of the Brotherhoods kind of suck. So the reason why Smite is so overpowered is because it adds 20 to 381 added lightning damage, which gets multiplied by Wrath and then converted over into cold damage, which gets multiplied again by Hatred, and then it gets multiplied by Zealotry. So it's just an insane amount of damage that gets multiplied. And on that topic, that means that attack skills don't benefit from Zealotry. So because of Zealotry not being a benefit, that means you lose out on a 48% more damage multiplier. And 48% more damage is insane at the end of the chain, right? And in addition, you miss out on Righteous Fire. So that's a 46% more spell damage. And then you're missing out on 48% here. And then you're missing out on 30% more spell damage from Pain Attunement. So you add that all up, it's 130% less multiplier. And that just becomes something that's insurmountable. Like that's the reason why the damage for the Aura Stacker with Fizz skills and Lightning skills is so high. And that's why like Winter Orb always struggles. And even though it struggles, Smite is so overpowered that Winter Orb's damage is tripled when you Smite. So this whole Aura Stacker literally comes down to converting all your damage to cold and then double dipping on the Wrath and Hatred scaling, and smiting to double dipped on the lightning and cold. So that's why, and all that double dipping gets multiplied by the Zealotry aura. So that's why you can't use attack skills. So people ask me to do Power Siphon, but I just know it's going to be trash. Like the best way to do Power Siphon is to get a Fizz wand and then benefit from that. And not to mention for attack skills, a lot of times like Power Siphon, you can't use Smite, and Smite is actually a huge chunk of our damage. Like, let me go show you guys real fast about Smite. So let's go see some quick actual analysis of how big auras actually are, because it's actually quite surprising. So here you can see our Penance Brand is 355k. You turn on RF, it's 520k. So this 46% more damage multiplier is here. So you can see now you don't have Pain Attunement, right? 520k, you unspec out of this multiplier at 399k. So you can see how much even a 30% more damage multiplier is, because each thing gets multiplied upon one another. So you can also see what happens if I turn off Hatred, for instance. Hatred, you turn off Hatred, you're at 249k. So how about Zealotry? So say we have an actual attack skill, like a Fizz skill, right? You turn off Zealotry, you're at 295k, right? And then you unspec out of this, and then now you're at 227k, and then you don't have RF either. So let me go back to town, and so I can turn off RF, and that should give you a pretty good idea of why Fizz skills will never work, or not Fizz skills, but attack skills never work with an Aura Stacker. And if you're working, and if it works with the Aura Stacker, it's because you're overgeared. I know Empyrean has his Power Siphon Wander, but the Wander is honestly just a skill. It's just because he has insane gear, right? So you can see right now it's 155k instead of, if you have all the multipliers in, which is just Pain Attunement, Zealotry, and what's the last one here? And RF. It's 520k, so it's literally 25% of the damage. And that means a lot. And that's not even the full story here, right? So we go over here, yada, yada, yada. We find some mobs. And now we're going to Smite. So Smite, we're at 852k. So that's just how big it is. So you don't have Smite. You don't have Zealotry. You don't have Pain Attunement. You don't have Righteous Fire. So in the end, your skill is doing like 100, what was it, 100, like 40k out of 800k. So it's doing like 15 to 16% of the damage of an actual Aura Stacker with spells. So that should be a pretty good demonstration of how OP Smite is and how OP Conversion is, and why attack skills just don't work with Aura Stackers to a great degree, or it just won't never be as overpowered as spells. And it should also illustrate why Fizz and Lightning skills are king, and why Cold and Fire just can't be played, because you don't benefit from the double dipping of Lightning to Cold and the Wrath and all the multipliers. So each multiplier you lose a huge chunk of damage. And that's why Aura Effect is so important. That's why Crit Multi is important. Everything scales off one another, so that's why the build's fun, right? Every single little increase in multiplier increases your damage by a huge chunk until the very, very end. So even now, I only have 400%, 333% multi. Oh wait, that's pretty low. But we can always get more with better jewels, right? But now I kind of want to go over Penance Brand and some quick mechanics. And just to summarize, because the last video I talked about the calculator, and now I wanted to explain a little bit about what happens when you go over 20 stacks. So I was staring at this chart, right? And I was kind of getting sad. Like, why is my number not green? Because I have too much cast speed? Now, I was told by someone in my chat, and it was also like kind of like some people like was asking, oh, why is the number not green? It's not 20 stacks anymore. Does that mean we do a lot less damage? So one of the theories was that once you're pulsing damage with Penance Brand, if you're over 20 stacks, that you would do a substantially lower amount of damage for the explosion. However, if you read the skill description, it says nothing about what happens when you reach 20 stacks and you have over 20 stacks and are pulsing for a little bit of amount of time. So it says here, if it is yellow, it means your stack will reach the pulse damage, which is too much. It's green, means your stack is fine. However, even though you reach the pulse damage, for my tests when I did it with Swift Brand, and I did tests with having perfect stacks with 20, and then I did some tests with 23 stacks. And the explosion damage is probably nearly identical. So that means even if you're at 23 stacks, you will still explode and do the same amount of damage as the other people. So it shouldn't matter how much cast speed you have. The more cast speed, the better, because I think it's still better to be pulsing damage than to not be able to explode at 20. Because the main issue is that you have to lower the skill duration in order to make Penance Brand actually do more damage. So for our build, personally, the only way you can lower your duration is by taking out this. So if you take out this, it makes Penance Brand 0.88 seconds instead of 0.92. So you can see it can be attached for a total duration of 0.88. And then you put this in, it's 0.92 or 0.91, something around there. Yeah, 0.91. So that means when you're at 0.91, at most you can remove this, right? 0.88. And now you're pretty much, you can't do anything else to change it, right? So like you have more cast speed, you have more hit rate. You're at 21 stacks, you're at 22, 23. No matter what, the brand is going to explode after 0.88 seconds, or the brand will be removed and an explosion will happen, and you'll be at 20 stacks. So it doesn't matter if you're at 21 or 23 stacks. You will be at the optimum amount for explosion, and it won't matter. Because a lot of people here were afraid that you were actually losing damage. But in my opinion, you're probably gaining damage. Because when you're gaining stacks and you're not pulsing, you do 0 damage. But once you reach 20 stacks and you're pulsing, at least you do a little bit. So in the end, I think even though this means that if it's green, it means your stack is fine. The only way you can do to make it so that you benefit more is if you lower your cast speed, but you gain something in return. So you gain like crit multi, or you gain more spell damage. However, for us as aura stackers, we just have a problem of luxury. So we have too much cast speed because of haste aura and because of our aura effect and necromancer bonus, in that we can't really lower the cast speed anymore to gain anything. Like there's nothing we can do. We have a nebulous that gives us 20% cast speed or whatever, and we can't really actually lower our cast speed. But more importantly, we can't lower our skill duration. So the only way to lower the duration is to take out the Conqueror's efficiency, or to take these nodes, but these nodes are impossible to take without spending an insane amount of points. So in the end, the only thing to conclude from this is to just get as much cast speed as possible. And if you really want the damage to feel a little better and come out faster, get rid of Conqueror's efficiency. You sacrifice 2 RMR, but you gain back like 30 multi, and like faster explodes on a Penance Brand. But don't be afraid to stack cast speed even if it says 23, and that's my personal conclusion after testing it out on Maven with and without having 23 stacks or 20 stacks on the calculator. So pretty much just get cast speed, it'll make the mapping feel better, and for the bossing it should be better. And the only reason why the bossing seemed like somewhat mediocre was because I was an idiot and didn't have Rune Binder. And now I wanted to show you Awakener with Rune Binder, just to show you how Penance Brand is absolutely bonkers single target.
Be utterly annihilated.
Yet of death, my heart races. I am alive.
I have nothing more to do.
Exalted Orb.
That's some damage. So overall, I hope this illustrates how important Rune Binder is. The damage is literally night and day, even from the previous videos. I guess I didn't really notice because my damage is already so high, but make sure you have this node spec. And overall, according to the cast speed thing and my tests, don't worry if you're at 23 stacks. You really can't do anything about it unless you can sacrifice cast speed on your jewels for multi or something like that, but a lot of us don't really have that luxury. We just have too much cast speed. We were born with it. We are aura stackers. We have really good natural stats and statistics. So we can't really benefit. We can't really get any less cast speed. We can't really reduce the duration. Only thing you can do in conclusion is to get rid of Conqueror's efficiency, but that's probably a really late game upgrade, as you would have to have reduced reservation clusters. So pretty much just don't worry about it. Stack as much cast speed as possible. But if you can swap cast speed out for multi on a jewel, be sure to do it. But that's only if you can reach 20 stacks. If you can't reach 20 stacks, cast speed is king. Cast speed is always king for mapping because you'll never reach 20 stacks for the explosion. But overall, I hope this helps you out learning about Penance Brand. It's been quite a journey to learn about Penance Brand, but I am confident to declare myself and give myself the degree of a Penance Brand savant. Not really, but I'm sure there's always more things to learn. This skill is pretty wacky. It's actually crazy how much damage it does if you reach 20 stacks. The most important thing is to reach 20 stacks. There's a damage multiplier for the explosion. Very, very important. So cast speed is everything. It's also why the skill is not good at league start, because you can't get the cast speed you need. But maybe there's some important things I could try out. It would be nice to try out this skill at a league start scenario, but we'll see. I'll probably maybe try it out as a dry run and see how it works. But Storm Brand's probably just going to be better. But anyhow, if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and subscribe. I hope you guys understand why Power Siphon or Stacker is not going to work, or it won't work well. But maybe with good enough gear, anything can be possible, like Blade Vortex. But be sure to tune into my stream every day. I'll be streaming some more PoE in terms of trying to get to 100 on this build, and probably coming up with some different money making strategies. I did do a lot of Mavens today, and we have 8 Maven orbs, but also a lot less exalts. But anyhow, everyone, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, and I hope you find more mirrors than I do.